Dear reader, dear listener, hello. We're going to dive into today our ghost reel. What are the signs that you are aware of them? Yes, if you've been following along, we are doing a major plot shift, plot twist today. We've been in this, I don't even know, the last month or two, really talking a lot about money. If you've been listening to these shows in order, we've been talking a lot about money. And we're going to keep talking about money because I want your life to be awesome. And this spirit awareness topic is a part of having an awesome life. If you ignore your ability with the spirit world, you will always have symptoms that you can't explain and you can't do anything with. So I want to educate you on this as much as you want to have. Hi guys, say hi. You did already. Hi Inez, hi Facebook user. All right, you guys, so are ghosts real? Are they real? First thing I want to address with this topic, because this, if you Google ghosts, this is the most asked question about ghosts. Are they real? And so I want to start with the way you find out if something is real is you ask yourself. Now, if when you look at a topic like ghosts, you go into fear, confusion, any other energy besides knowing, you're keeping yourself from what you know. So that's just first thing to know. If you're going into fear, confusion, I don't know, I'm confused, that's you keeping yourself from what you know. What you know always has a sense of calm to it, ease, joy, glory. That's where what you know lives. And so to get access to what you know about our ghost reel, you have to ask yourself, well, what do I know about this? And get a sense of it. Now, I'm a Talk to the Entities facilitator. This will be my 5th year. Hi, Jennifer. I'm getting recertified this year. Actually, I wasn't, and I was. Long story. But as of year 5, I'm also going to be able to facilitate the intermediate class. So this is a topic that when I first got introduced to it, I was very weirded out by. It was so weird. I got exposed to this in my very first class of Access Consciousness called Foundation. And it was, I just remember my face scrunching up and like my body kind of going like this. Like I did not want to acknowledge that this was a part of what I needed to know to live here. But there were so many undeniable changes that I experienced in that first class, including clearing out walk-ins. By the way, original occupants, walk-ins, this is a huge thing. Are you a walk-in? So that was a piece of it. And then I took the entity tools that we were given in Foundation and I started using them in my life. And it started changing so many things just naturally. And I actually really didn't acknowledge how much I used those basic entity tools until like 5 or 6 years later, when I was asking the universe to show me what receiving was. Big question. And the universe said, go be a Talk to the Entities facilitator. And I denied it and refused it and didn't do it. And then I chose it, and I've in the last 5 years gotten more access to me, to the power that I am, to the gift of the spirit world and what I'm aware of with them than I've ever had before. So without any further ado, I want to dive into the 10 signs that you might be ghost aware, and then kind of roll around to some of the big questions and energies that I get asked about regularly. Here's 10 signs that you might be ghost aware. Your eyes go foggy when you enter a room or an area or an airport or a shopping mall. Quick story. I was visiting my friend Maxine on Vancouver Island, and we were going to the grocery store. We were staying there for a week. I was working, she was doing her thing. We were like hungry. Driving to the grocery store, 2 things actually happened, and these are 2 of the signs that you might be entity aware. One, as we drove to the shopping center, both of our heads got more full, our eyes got more foggy, and we entered into this angry, agitated mood. 2 symptoms you might be entity aware. Your vision kind of goes hazy, foggy, everything seems kind of, you know how when you're like you've been crying and your contacts go blurry, if for any of you contact lens wearers, it's kind of like that. And mood. 2 symptoms. So we drove in, we parked, we went through the grocery store. This grocery store was older, the ceiling was very low, the people there were very annoying, all of those things were true. But we were so agitated at each other while we were in there until we got out into, including when we got out into the parking lot. And as soon as, it didn't even occur to me that I was aware of entities. We got into the car, packed our groceries, got into the car, and we're driving out of the parking lot, and I look to my left, and all I see is this massive cemetery. It like hit me that, you know, you get this instantaneous download when you've been ignoring something. I'm like, oh, entities. I mentioned something to Maxine. She's like, oh, everything gets lighter when you acknowledge what is, right? So everything got lighter, and I just started working. I just started clearing. Hey, all of you. So you can ping into millions of entities at the same time, as long as you're willing to be that aware, and you can clear them. So I pinged into all their worlds. I cleared them. Instantly, the mood lifted. Instantly, the fog lifted. Crazy town. So two of the symptoms you might be entity aware is moods, like the sudden onslaught of a mood, like totally unrelated to anything that you could pin on hormones or period or that person is annoying or something, but isn't really related. Or your eyes go foggy. Okay, another sign is you say about another person, it's like they're being someone else. Okay? That's something I've heard. I think a lot of us say that. It's like they turn into someone else. I mean, we were just talking and all of a sudden it was like he turned into someone else. I remember saying this so vividly about my mom, about a couple of the people I was dating. One person in particular who kind of had, I don't know, probably more than this, but like 3 different personas. This guy that I was dating, not for very long. One of them was incredibly gentle and would like just take care of me forever. Another one was raging alcoholic, like raging. Like he would just walk around and he looked like he was walking around like a gorilla, and he owned a restaurant and you would think he was gonna punch his customers in the face. And what was the other one? I don't know, there was another kind of dude in there. Like he liked animals and being outside. And so there was just, and so I would watch him go in and out of these personalities, but he was also incredibly unconscious about this. And I ended up having to leave this relationship in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. He got very dangerous. But this is the thing about people that are unconscious about the number of entities they have in their body is they don't want to know. People that keep entities and demons in their bodies are like, they like to stay unaware generally, because that's what happens when you know, well, when you have other beings in your body, you never get access to you. So anyway, so he would switch in and out of these, and he ended up being kind of dangerous, and I knew there was like, no, this is just something that is not going to work for me to be around. There's other people that it still works to be around them, but you have to start to recognize when you hear yourself say it's like they're being someone else, and go, are they being someone else? Is there another being in their body? And then you have to work with that situation as what it is instead of what you hope it will be. Meaning they are not being themselves, they are actually being this other being. So I put my 2 tips on Instagram today, so if you don't follow me on Instagram yet, go over there, there's so much material. But the top tip is to go recognize they're not being someone else, ask the person you enjoy to come to the front of the body, and tell all those other fuckers in there to go outside 1,000 miles in every direction so that you can enjoy this person while you're with them, and that they can come back when you're gone. Because the thing about other people and entities is that's their thing, right? Like if other people want to keep the entities, they're going to keep them. So you can clear, I do have a story about that. You check out my Talk to the Entities playlist on my YouTube channel. You can clear. And this is another quick way. So you might be ghost aware if you hear yourself say, it's like they're being someone else. That is your awareness of a shift. That means you have the ability. You might be ghost aware if you see movement out of the corner of your eye, turn your head, and there's nothing there. That is always something, someone, 100% of the time. And you don't have to believe me. You can play with it for yourself. So the next time it happens, because it will, because you're aware, ask yourself, am I aware of entities, yes or no? And if a yes pops into your head, that's your information. You might be ghost aware. You might be ghost aware if you have physical symptoms you can't fix and you can't explain. And I think this one is bigger than we know. I think this one's bigger than we know. I have a sense that, I didn't even put mental health problems on here. Oh my God, let me do this. I have this list. Oh my God, mental health stuff. So we have 11 things that you have physical symptoms you can't fix or explain. So I have a sense that most, if not all, of the autoimmune diseases that we have just coming up left, right, and center. Like if you look anywhere on social media, there are so many people coming up with these diagnoses. And this is all Western medicine has created themselves to do. They've created themselves as a diagnosis machine that can then prescribe you a drug. But the number of autoimmune diseases that are showing up as diagnoses that have no explanation, no treatment, and no way to change them is pretty staggering right now. And I would put money if all of those people that were diagnosed were willing to be aware that they would all have an ability with the spirit world. Now, why is that? Why does unacknowledged entity awareness show up as symptoms? Physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, moods, because it's multifaceted. We have not been educated. The art of spirit work is a lost and mutilated and killed art. They tried to, what is that word? I can never think of it. That thing where they take whole cultures and they just murder all of them. It was basically everyone in the church tried to take the spirit arts out of existence. So everyone was, people were killed. It was just decimated. And now people aren't being burned at the stake for being a witch, at least in 95% of the world. I would say there are still some countries where people get tortured and killed under the guise of something else. However, for the most part, we're living in a time that it can reemerge. So this is a lost art. Because it has been so eliminated, erased from any kind of anything that we need to know about, the thing is that we still have the ability. So it's been, the information has been eliminated, but the abilities is still present in at least 50% of us. And so because we're not being educated about it and it's not being talked about, that ability is still occurring, but it's showing up as other things. When you finally claim and own and acknowledge your ability with the spirit world, like I was saying, I think on TikTok or somewhere, that for me, this ability now is just really a part of my fabric. It's not something I have to very consciously work with most of the time. There are still times where I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that I can talk to entities. But for the most part, it's like kind of a part of the way I function. I was going somewhere with that. But I guess it wasn't always that. It was something I had to consciously remember that I needed to ask about because I had not practiced being a spirit-aware person. And so when you don't acknowledge that, then the only way energetic things and beings and the earth and things whose first language is energy can communicate with you is via energy. And our bodies are energy aware. Our bodies are actually one of the only things that we tend to listen to, unfortunately. Now, again, as you do this work and you get stronger, you can start to listen to what you sense, which is I would say that's ideal, or probably what is us at our most functional is listening to what we're sensing. But sensing is very feather light. Like what you perceive and what you receive energetically is feather light. And we tend to listen to the very, very heavy things, right? Like thoughts and feelings and emotions and physical intensity, which we'll call pain for now. So mix all that together. No education, have this raging ability going unchecked that nobody's talking about, that we don't even know is happening. beings and energies trying to get our attention. You mix all that together and you have a cocktail of symptoms. Physical symptoms, emotional symptoms, for the most part. I put moods and emotional symptoms kind of in two different things, because moods could be like this strong, just swath of depression or a descending mood, whereas I think emotions are kind of more of that like sudden burst of something. Regardless, these beings trying to communicate with us, trying to be received, they know we have this ability. We don't know we have this ability, so they're like pressing in on us. They have to intensify things in order to get our attention. And most of us got to access consciousness and talk to the entities via some kind of pain. Can anybody relate? So like, I know a facilitator, I just adore her, who had this really raging skin problem. A lot of you might know her, Kalpana. And it was just, and I actually remember being roommates with her before I think she said yes to becoming a Talk to the Entities facilitator. And her skin was, I think, eczema, had so much of it going on, and she was constantly scratching and moving. And that was her reality. Well, she said yes to becoming a Talk to the Entities facilitator, finally gave in and surrendered to this ability of facilitating this work, choosing these tools, communicating with entities, and her skin problem all but went away. So that's sort of like the big 6-minute conversation around symptoms. Like, the only way an energetic being can communicate with you is through symptoms if you have not been willing to be aware. And to me, this is reason number 5032. We should be willing to be aware, because otherwise, pain. So how do you know if what's going on with you is entity awareness? Well, you start to ask. Is this thing going on with my body entity and demon awareness, yes or no? Again, when you ask a yes or no question, you want to go with what pops. Okay, yes. Okay, good. What do I do with it? Well, 80% of all entity activity is handled through clearing. So you, again, head over to Instagram. I've got some little reels over there telling you the clearing statement. You can do that. You can take a Talk to the Entities class. I have some of those coming up. But you start handling it, and continue to handle it for at least 21 days. Like, be steady for a while and notice what changes in your body. All right. Another sign you might be ghost aware is mental health stuff. Now, this is very big. I think this topic is very broad. I think this deserves its own show. Schizophrenia, bipolar, multiple personality disorder. I would say that's a mix right there of entity ability and X-Men ability, but it's all ability, all right? All these things that are diagnosed in this reality as disability are actually an ability. Another sign you might be ghost aware is you feel confused about what you want to do with your life, foggy, unclear. Now, why would that be a sign that you are ghost aware? Well, you as a being are clear. But you as a being with entity awareness or with other beings in your body, because you have an ability with them and you're ignoring it, are many things, because you have many different realities going on all at the same time. If you go to my YouTube channel into the Talk to the Entities playlist and you click on the video called The Video That YouTube Took Down, you're going to hear a 30-minute conversation about the time I cleared my mom from my body. Now, you guys got to understand, my mom still has a body here today. Her body is here. But the being that was my mom jumped into my body when I was 20, and I didn't find out until I turned 43. So I tell that story there. But the reason I mention that now is, one, it's a fucking cool story, and two, I remember really feeling that month that I cleared her that I was super did not know what I wanted to do with my life. And I had been a facilitator now for 6-7 years. I was traveling the world. I was doing all these really cool things, but I felt so unclear. And then I discovered she was in my body. I told her to get out. I cleared her, and I had never had so much clarity in my life. Just instantaneous clarity. So one of the signs you might be ghost aware is you feel confused about what you want to do with your life and your whole existence here. And then the last two that I put on this list, and there's more, but I limited it to 10, is you can see other people in people's faces, bodies on the side of the road. You can literally like see shadows of other beings. I don't know who I was talking to the other day. I think Andres and I were just out. Yeah. We were out. We were at dinner. And our server came up, and she was so heavy. She was this little thing. She was this little thing who really looked like she smoked weed on all of her off time, which fine. But she was really, really thin, and she came up and she just looked really heavy. Her eyes were really dark, and all I could perceive was like these smoke entities and like demons just all over her being. Now your being is infinite. And you could tell her body was like under the weight of 1,000 suns, you know. What was really interesting was that as we were just there, we didn't really do anything special. We were just ourselves. She got lighter and happier. It was really fascinating. And I was energetically acknowledging everything she had going on in her world, and I was just interacting with her as a being, which is really the gift of you being you, because I didn't have to do anything special. But that's one of the signs you might be ghost aware, is you can perceive like that person's face and maybe a demon face kind of merging in and out, or they have like 3 faces. I actually was having a conversation with Andres the other day, and I could see like 3 faces, and we ended up getting into a great conversation, and I said, can I ask you a question? And he said, yes. And I said, are there any other beings in there with you? And he said, yes. And we got 3, and I ended up clearing them. So this is maybe a seemingly advanced symptom that you might be ghost aware, but I don't know if it's that advanced. I think a lot of us have these things and we just never talk about them. And then the last thing I put on this list, and it's by no means an exhaustive list, is you get headaches. And this for me, headaches and coughing are 2 of my entity awareness symptoms that I didn't really know about. Headaches where do I even start with this? Well, I've been entity aware my whole life. I got really, really bad power band headaches in my childhood that, of course, you go to the chiropractor and they tell you is because of stress. But then as I got into being older, they changed into this thing where it felt like my brain was swelling out through my bones. Very weird sensation. And I remember the day in London, Ontario, where I was just brought to my knees with the pain. And I had written it off as like, you know, hangover headaches, and it's the wine, and it's this, and it's that. It wasn't. I would like not drink and still get them. And so this one day in particular, I was like on my knees with the pain. I was in my office on the floor, just curled up in a ball, and I, of course, crying. And I remembered that somebody in some Talk to the Entities class had talked about inculcated entities. I go into that in the Talk to the Entities class, but I remembered that, and headaches, migraines in particular, are always inculcated entities. So I got really demanding with myself, and I was like, whatever it takes, I'm changing this. And I used the migraine process, which a huge part of which is clearing inculcated entities. And I did it for about 30 minutes. And literally that headache that I hadn't been able to change in 3 years went away. And I have never gotten a headache like that since. So headaches can be massive entity awareness, and coughing for me is the sign that I need to actually pay attention. There's entities very present that want my attention. So again, this is not an exhaustive list, but if you recognize yourself on any of it, then you might be ghost aware. You might have an ability with entities. So let's talk about, before we go, a few of the very key things that I see people bring up in and around entities. And if this conversation pings something for you, then come and join me in the Talk to the Entities book club. You can find the link down at this thing down here. Am I pointing to the right thing? Because I don't even... No, here, this. crystaljoycrawford.com/what's new. But let's talk quickly about a few other key things that come up all the time. What about fear of entities? Here's what you need to know about fear. Fear is 100% of the time never real. It is always there to distract you, and the thing that fear covers up is always potency. So how do you move beyond the fear of entities? Ask yourself a question. Am I afraid, or am I unwilling to be as potent as I am? That's a key question. Am I afraid, or am I unwilling to be as potent as I am? And then if you know the clearing statement, you can go, well, everything that is, and all the presumptive and need of reactive realities, I destroy and uncreate all that. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all nine shorts, boys, povas, and beyonds. So that's it. That's it on fear. That's all that's needed. It's not real. You aren't afraid. You are just not choosing to be as potent as you are. What if you did? And again, go to Instagram and check out some of my reels this week, because I do one on fear that's really good. Do you need to protect your energy and set boundaries with entities or something else? This thing about protecting your energy is this, it's probably bigger here in Latin America than anywhere I've ever heard it before. Like, I have to protect myself. No. First of all, can an energetic being protect themselves from other energies? Yes or no? Like, it's an absolute just weirdness. It's absolutely just ridiculous. Energy is everywhere. We are energy. It mixes, oneness is what's really true. You can't protect yourself from energy. In fact, when you go to protect yourself, the person you cut off is you. So you cut yourself off from receiving all the information and all the different things you could do with that information. So protection is an absolute ridiculous notion. I'm not, and if you're doing that, I'm not like, this is not me judging you. I'm like no to that myth, because it is so disempowering to us. So you do not need to protect your energy. In fact, if you go to protection, you cut yourself off from all of your ability and all of your awareness. So, and do you need to set boundaries with entities? I would say this in a different way. You have an ability that you may or may not have acknowledged or worked with yet. And there are many, 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 many beings that have been trying to get your attention for a very long time, which means you may have a backlog. Okay? That's not wrong. That's just what it is. So when you do finally choose to get present with this, there might be some work to do. But honestly, it doesn't really take that much time. If you committed to 21 days of doing your office hours, which is you showing up at a particular time for a particular amount of time, so let's say 9 a.m. every morning for 20 minutes, and you handled them, and we learn an exercise that you can use to handle them in Talk to the Entities, that is enough to handle your backlog and actually relax your world and their world, that you are now showing up for this ability, and they no longer need to wake you up in the middle of the night, knock on your head, knock things over, to get your attention. You are now being present. You're no longer the absent mom that the kid has to go, mom, 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 mom. Have you ever seen that with kids who don't get acknowledged? They just keep going, and then it turns into a disaster because of how the person is trying to handle it. So that's what entities are doing, like mom, 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 except there's like however many of them. So you don't need to set boundaries, you just need to be clear. There's a difference. And actually, that's true in your whole life. That could be a whole conversation. And then exploring the first bits of communication. How do you communicate with energy? That's a really big conversation. So I don't know if I'm going to get into that today, but what I want to invite you to is a study of the book. Now, if you're watching this in the future, the book club has probably already happened. We don't provide recordings of those because of copyrights. But find an intro to Talk to the Entities. Go to my YouTube channel and find the playlist there. Go to my store, crystaljoycrawford.com/store, and download some of the free resources there. There's information everywhere. But for you guys in real time, I want to invite you to the book club. And you can go to crystaljoycrawford.com/what's new, or this right here, and sign up for that. We're going to start studying this more openly. And then I'm going to invite you to a live class with me. I'm going to be in the United States, in California, the United States, in Colorado, and in Europe, in Hungary, in July. And that right now, that's the only way besides the book club that you can come get this stuff with me. But the Talk to the Entities classes are some of the most transformative being, knowing, perceiving, and receiving classes that I have ever facilitated or taken. And if you have not yet explored this and you're still having difficulties like waking up in the middle of the night, physical symptoms, depression, moods, emotions, just erratic things going on, even money problems, relationship problems, you might be ghost aware. What would it create for your life, for the future, for the earth, for you to finally claim your abilities? Please come and play if this is speaking to you, and share this with a friend who's also tortured. I love you guys. See you soon.